My name is Chappy Asel. I am one of the founders of the Gen AI Collective, which is SF's largest AI community. I am so excited to be here and be your MC today. Thank you for joining us for the world premiere of the PyTorch Startup Showcase, where we will be going to hear from 8 startups, pitch in front of 5 VCs we have over here. We'll be scoring them across 5 different dimensions, all right? 5 different dimensions. First, market potential and business model. Second, innovation and originality. Third, technical proficiency and PyTorch integration. Fourth, alignment with PyTorch's core values and themes. And fifth, impact on the PyTorch and open source communities. Startups will be given 3 minutes to pitch, and yes, I will be timing them on my phone, so we're not going over. And they will have 3 minutes for questions from our judges. Once the 8 startups have finished, all of you will be heading over to the PyTorch Flare Party at the Gateway Pavilion, where our judges will finalize the scores. We will be announcing the winning startup at 6:30 p.m. over at the party and present them with the very first PyTorch Startup Showcase Pitch Award. All of our startups, as well as 10 others, will be available at the party at tables over there. While we can, where you can stop to watch them demo and ask questions, so we hope you'll take advantage of that. Now, I would like to introduce our esteemed panel of VCs. When I call your name, can you please stand up and wave to everybody? All right, first we have is Astasia Myers. There we go, general partner at Finalists Ventures. Second, we have Kevin Crosby. Stand up, please. All right. Senior Director of Open Source Funding at GitHub. Third, we have Rajko Radovanovic. There we go. Thank you. Investor at Andreessen Horowitz. Next, we have Simon Tu, VC investor at Vertex Ventures. Next, we have Sachidananda. There we go. Investor at Gradient Ventures. And finally, we have Vijay Reddy. There we go. Investor at Mayfield Fund. All right, that is all the VCs. That is all the instructions. We are ready to get started. Okay, so the first startup I will be calling out today is Remyx Inc. Remyx Inc., can you please come up? All right, this is Brandon Joachim. This Remyx Inc. is based out of Palo Alto, and they were started in September 2022. Do you have everything set up? Need help here? All good? Is this the clicker? I'm not sure. Is that the clicker? Oh, there we go. Okay, problem solved. Grab this water from you. All right, once again, Brandon Joachim.
You know, hello? Can you hear me? Great. You know, there are very few problems that truly impact everyone. But one of these universal problems is distance. I'm here, but I need to be there right now. And every time a piece of this problem is solved, it's created immense value. Like the telephone, the first time we could talk across distance. Or the television, first time we could witness events happening live. Well, today, I'm going to introduce you to a new category of communication device that we're pioneering. And it will bridge more of this gap than any tool that's come before it. We call it teleporter. Telephone, television, teleporter. Now, the first step in our journey was assembling an outstanding team. And we have a great team of PhDs and engineers. They've done high-impact research at places like Stanford and Cornell. You might have heard some of them talk earlier. And together, we've engineered this next leap. So what is it? What are we building? Well, just like how a phone has a microphone to capture your voice and a speaker to let you hear it, our product is 2 parts. It's a small device that captures your entire space. And it's a spatial app that lets you access any place that has our device. So for example, I'm with you good people now in San Francisco, but let's say I want to join my co-founder for a design review session in New York. All he has to do is put this little device down in his space. There's a quick setup process, and then the environment is live. It starts to stream its surroundings. Now all I have to do is log on to the Remyx app. I navigate to the space, and with one tap, 3,000 miles dissolves, and we can share the same physical environment in real time. Now, we call this whole experience a spatial call. You can move around freely, you can interact with all the objects and the people. It's really the closest thing to being there in person. And because we have access to all this spatial information, we enable a lot more than just calling. With our integrated spatial intelligence, you can ask questions like, how do I assemble this chair? Or ask for insights like, how many people visited my store today? And our vision for this is that eventually you'll be able to go to one app and be any place that you want. A design team could be iterating in the studio and directing the changes live on the factory floor. You could go visit a conference in Tokyo and still be home to play with your kids that night. That's the power of a network of these devices. And that's where we're headed. And to do this, we actually had to solve a problem that had never been solved, which is how do you stream an entire space in 3D without covering every angle with a camera like these guys did? And the way that we did this is really interesting. We innovated on an emerging approach in computer vision called novel view generation. And what we've done is, unlike the state of the art today, we've got it to work from one perspective, we've got it to work in real time, and it's totally generalizable.
All right, there we go. That is 3 minutes. I'm going to hold him to it.
Oh,
all right, round of applause for Brandon and Remyx. Round of applause. Okay, with that, we have 3 minutes of Q&A, 3 minutes of Q&A from the judges. Judges, you have your microphones. If you'd like to ask any questions.
Go ahead.
Rajko, can you make sure you use the microphone? Thank you.
Can you tell us more about the model and the data set?
Sure. Yeah. So we've collected. So what most people don't know is that there's not a lot of data out there to train novel view generation models. So what we did is we went out and we collected what's probably the largest data set for this in the world. We literally went out with our devices and collected a lot of data, and we've collected over 10,000 images for our data set that we've used to train this. Yeah.
I appreciate the technical accomplishment here, and I know that there's a lot of challenges here. Fei just raised a lot of money tackling a similar problem. I'm wondering how you envision the commercial side, how you're going to make a business out of this, who's the buyer, how will you monetize?
Yeah, so we're going to go to market in 2 phases. The first is we're going to live stream small interactive events for the existing Apple Vision Pro and Quest users. And that might look something like a political town hall. You put this little device down, you can sit right in front of the politician, and then get up and ask them a question. Because the whole thing is real time, there's an interactive element. And that's phase 1. And then phase 2, we want to sell the devices to consumers and businesses who want to use it for communication. But phase 1 gets us to manufacture a smaller run of devices so we don't have all this inventory laying around, and we can extract revenue from the existing Apple Vision Pro and Quest users.
Any more questions?
Yeah, go ahead.
How big is the recording device, and can it run on batteries, or does it have to be plugged in, and how heavy is it?
That's a great question. Our current prototype is like yay big. We have a version of it with 2 cameras now, so the one that we showed is a little outdated. It can run on batteries. All it is wide FOV cameras. There's no fancy sensors to it. Yeah. It's the same as he asked what kind of bandwidth is required. It's really the same as a regular video call. So part of our innovation has been just streaming the inference frames so that you don't have this large overhead when you're trying to stream it over a regular network. Yeah.
Time for one more question. We have one more question.
Yeah, are you reconstructing back on the device then? Like this inference that you're doing?
Inference is on device, yeah. We actually run inference locally, completely. And if you come by our booth today, you'll see it. So.
All right, that does us. All right, once again, one more round of applause for Brandon and Remyx Inc. All right, next up, our second startup presenting is OpenBabylon. All right, also based here in San Francisco, please welcome founder Anton Polishko. All right.
Hi, everyone. My name is Anton. I'm from OpenBabylon. We break the language barriers in the age of AI. Unfortunately, Big AI companies neglect the fact that LLMs don't inherently speak multiple languages. It's rather a bug and a feature. Usually we wrap it up as a transfer learning or something, but as we look at how training is done, it's actually not the case. So why do we care about multilinguality? Of course, we have the issue that majority of high-quality training data is English-centric. However, the end users don't speak English majority of time. Even in the United States, 68 million of people use non-English language at their homes. I'm part of that audience. And now, if you ask that audience what they experience dealing with LLMs in their native language, you will start immediately see complaining about code switching. Is when your LLM can't decide exactly in which language to reply, and will start switch even mid-word in terms of what generation answer they do. Also, it generates non-existent words. Hallucinations in general in non-English languages are more prevalent because of the compounding effects of suboptimal tokenizers. The whole training is suboptimal for other languages. And this is, again, non-exhaustive list. From the industry perspective, even just for this list of metrics, we don't have the right way to evaluate consistently across different languages. We can't evaluate, there are no benchmarks, there is no way for big companies to steer their ship in the right way to serve the needs of underserved communities. And this all results to hidden cost of English-centric AI. Every time I try to use Gen AI tools in my native Ukrainian language, I will burn almost 3 times more tokens for the same message, for input prompt, for generation output. So the same message, triple the cost. So what is our solution to this? We're not reinventing the wheel. We take existing foundational models that are open source, like Llama or Gemma from Google. Then we address the key problem of them that our team was able to identify is first suboptimal tokenizers. So we do a clever way of essentially neurosurgency of that tokenizer. We don't touch English tokens or any weights in the model that relate to English tokens. That's why we're preserving from the get-go English proficiency. Then for the rest of the tokens, like vocab size, we're free to do some clever tricks, introducing new tokens, for example, for Ukrainian language or our target language that we care about. Okay, then we do clever installation of weights, essentially do downstream fine-tuning task, and we do all of this in community-driven manner, so everything is being checked in real-world testing by native speakers. So market opportunity for models like this that essentially could be just bilingual is huge. Monetization scheme is also like not that novel, except one thing, we're trying to address the needs of end-to-end solutions for governments. Sovereign AI is a big deal recently, and guess what? It's not in English. We have amazing teams of PhDs and other diverse backgrounds. We were able to attract amazing advisors.
All right, Anton.
Okay, here's our target markets. We really care about indigenous languages. This is segment in blue. Okay, whereas in mega round, done. Thank you.
There you go. Anton's OpenBabylon. All right. What do you think? Should I be more tough, less tough?
So you
Astasia.
didn't have much time to talk about the post-training your work, so I'd love just to double-click on the techniques that you're using.
So, okay, so we do clever, as I said, so we touch tokenizer. People who ever did training know that we're already start getting into challenging area. Because we're not dealing with English tokens that much, we're in a good starting spot, so we don't need to do a lot of English tokens training just to keep MMLU score up. Then we replace the remaining tokens with, for example, Ukrainian use case. We're essentially expanding vocabulary for Ukrainian language. And then, as a result, now we have much better parity score for tokenization for Ukrainian, immediately addressing the issue that I mentioned on this slide, that is just hidden cost. Then we do essentially a round of continuous pre-training, so make sure the new tokens properly picked up by the model, and then we do fine-tune for end use cases for language specific.
How do you think about the long-term defensibility of this business with increasing training data extraction from the internet for large frontier model companies?
This is a great question. Again, our goal is not to do models per se, but rather the whole process, how to take existing model and make it more context aware of culture and like specific language. That's why from that regard, like we're in a better spot than just, hey, we're claiming to do yet another model. As an example of what's happening in industry right now, Llama 2 was multilingual. They trained with much more data. Llama 3 become English only. So there's a reason for that, that essentially where the money is flowing right now, like it just becomes more and more English-centric. So we're tackling the long tail of other distributions, so there is good opportunity there, overlooked by the market.
Thank you. Quick question on data sourcing and data quality. What are your strategies there?
Okay, amazing question. This is very tough, especially for indigenous languages, underrepresented languages. We started with Navajo language, like super tough to work with in terms of data sourcing. That's why we kind of shifted to Ukrainian, because I'm originally from Ukraine, some other team members are from there. But even Ukrainian language, 40 million population, it's still under-resourced. So we essentially already sucked in all of the Wikipedia articles, etc. We work with universities, top researchers of NLP in Ukraine and other parts of the world where we already start working. So essentially it's a community-driven effort. We're also part of the nonprofit alliances to essentially source the data. We have partners like Wikitongues that are like working in terms of collecting high-quality data for indigenous languages. So essentially, we need to rely on partners and be very friendly with the community. We use PyTorch, Hugging Face, etc. So we're plugged into PyTorch ecosystem as well. So yeah, it's a joint effort. That's why our goal mainly to raise the awareness even, not just pitch.
All right, awesome. Well, that was such a good answer. That's your last question. All right, Anton and OpenBabylon. Great job. Okay, our third startup of the night. Next startup is Remyx AI. Remyx AI is based here in San Francisco, and speaking on their behalf is CEO Salma Mayerquin. Oh.
Is it on? Should be on. There we are. Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you. We are Remyx AI. It's a very popular verb noun. What we stand for is we want to essentially make AI development easier using AI. So hence the word remix. Let's see. Green button. There we are. So to start off, what's the problem that we're trying to solve? Essentially, if you've developed machine learning applications in the last decade plus, you know that it's a fairly difficult thing to do. It's a multidisciplinary field where it requires expertise in data engineering, data science, machine learning, ML ops, and it's only getting more complex now, especially with foundation models. So new problems are popping up, like how do you evaluate models since they can do so many great things? How do you gather training data to actually make them better, given that they've been able to compress essentially the internet onto their weights? What's the best way to actually improve that for your application? And the experimentation process has been cost prohibitive historically for a lot of organizations. So, all the moving parts that you have to keep track of, the experiments themselves can be very, very costly. Anyone here is GPU poor? I know that I've been there. So, lots of problems in terms of actually helping a lot of organizations be able to build their own AI apps. And so what we are focusing on is the ability to bring in the latest advancements in foundation models and generative AI and whatever comes next, and bake that back into the tools that developers use to build models and applications. The idea is, can we help solve issues around data synthesis and building high-quality data sets? Can we also help folks find the best decisions for being able to fine-tune models if they choose to? Or what's the best way to evaluate if you want to make your foundation model do a specific task? And we do that with what we call agent-guided MLOps or ML development. We built a studio that has a bunch of these tools and an agent on board to help you guide on the decision process. So from a bunch of experience of people building applications, we can get some context from the user about what they're trying to build, and then distill that down into a series of steps or tools to use together to make that asset. So in this case, the Remyx agent is able to have a conversation about what app you're building, what data do you need, and then translates that into a DAG that then gets executed. And I don't know if this will play, but essentially, there we are. This is an example of it working in the wild. Right now it's a chat agent, but this can also be done with infrastructure as code or some templating. And then some other examples we got here. There we are. Here's one example of one of our most popular features, which is just a model recommendation tool. If you've been on Reddit, you'll see that there's a ton of people asking, what's your favorite model to use? Which one do you like? Which one's best? They change all the time. There's so many of them coming out every time. But really, the best model is the one that has the best data priors for your application, what you want to build. So we built a recommender system that will get you the answer from a bunch of base models to find the best one, for example, to save you time. Right. That's good.
Okay. All right, thank you, everybody. Salma from Remyx AI. All right, thank you for holding yourself accountable. All right, we'll go to Q&A. Judges.
So I think this is a very powerful tool, right? I'm just curious, how do you compare this against what cloud are building, whether it's Bedrock or Vertex or any number of companies trying to make it easier to build models and deploy them?
Yeah, excellent question. And if I can take this as a tea time, I'm going to go ahead and show you this.
That is allowed.
Essentially, we kind of compare ourselves amongst two axes that we think are important for development and helping enable more organizations. One is how easy is it to use? So how quickly can you get an application up and running versus how flexible is it? And on the very right-hand side, we think some of the cloud companies are where they're really, really, you could do whatever you want with them. The services get really low level and very abstract, but it makes it really hard to get something going quickly. So we want to provide an abstraction layer over something as complex like that so that we essentially narrow the scope of what matters for building your application.
How do you recommend the models? Is there a fixed set of evals that you ask them to define, and then you just run 20 models and see who scores the best? Or, I don't know, are you looking at their training data that they're going to use and try to compare it against, I don't know, Hugging Face downloads? How should we think about it?
Yeah, evaluation is very complex itself, and it's also something that you want to specialize for what you're building. So, for example, the mixed match is just one type of evaluation we provide. What that does is that it takes a sample of your data set that you're using to build your application, and then it uses something like control vectors to understand or score essentially the model steerability towards the subject that you actually want to use that model for. So instead of having you train a bunch of models and then after all that see if anything fixes or works with your application, we get a quick signal of the data distributions lying underneath on all these base models.
Super cool.
Time for one more.
Yeah, I guess how do you define different dimensions on which people actually care about their models performing, like safety versus performance versus cost? How does that kind of come into play on this platform?
I think it depends on, and we have in the back with the agent a series of logic steps that the LLM essentially can go ahead and take into account. So for example, let's see, maybe this is a good example here. Oh, there we are. I don't know if it will play. But essentially the idea is that, given context, say, if you're building a mobile application, that'll restrict the world of foundation models that you can fit onto the mobile device. If you are looking for something that has speed restrictions, that'll also narrow the field. So from all the context that you give us, we essentially try to make the best decisions to then make recommendations. And the idea is, can we get you a valid experiment quickly to then, after that first signal, get more information about what's the next best direction to explore?
Okay, that's perfect timing. All right, Salma and Remyx AI, thank you. I got this mic. Okay. Up, we have A2 Labs, based out of Boston, Massachusetts. All right. Welcome, founder Waseed Allah. There we go.
Hi, everybody. Thank you all for having me. My name is Waleed, and I'm a founder of A2 Labs. And we make AI software portable. Now, this is an incredibly difficult and important thing because today, AI software is anything but portable. In fact, AI software is explicitly tied to the underlying hardware. And this has worked out very well for one company in particular. NVIDIA today enjoys a near monopoly on AI compute because of what is called the CUDA moat. Most AI software relies on the CUDA kernels, which is the programming language used to execute software on NVIDIA GPUs. And this screenshot is literally just from a random GitHub repo for some state-of-the-art model. You see this all the time. Everything works on NVIDIA. We're locked in. The good news, though, is that this story of lock-in has happened before. In fact, it happens every single time there's a major software paradigm shift. In the early 2000s, it was web software. A decade later, it was cloud software. In both cases, a third-party middleware layer emerges to unlock the underlying infrastructure for application developers everywhere. For AI, in the 2020s, A2 Labs is making that infrastructure layer. Now, again, very technically difficult thing. So to do this, we are developing a proprietary compiler and runtime stack. We intercept directly at the PyTorch level. This works because PyTorch today is the de facto standard for developing models. And so we get developers all over the world working for this. And with our compiler, you can retarget your PyTorch code for any underlying hardware backend. Now, today, we support AMD and NVIDIA. Shout out to my AMD guys in the crowd. But in the future, we plan to expand support. All the hyperscalers have their own chips. We want to be able to support those too. In the far future, we plan to support laptops and cell phones as well. We want A2 Labs to be that infrastructure layer that everybody just takes for granted. I'm going to skip the demo because we don't have time. I'm going to skip traction because that's boring. How are we going to market? So we have this amazing technology. We partner with the biggest clouds, and we work with our cloud partners to deliver this to the largest buyers and renters of GPUs in the world. Now, this problem is more acute for them. When you really need to maximize capacity, sometimes you don't have a choice. You need to expand beyond just the one vendor that is typically available. You need to be able to leverage all the compute that you have at your fingertips. And today, it's just not possible. So we partner very closely with Azure. We're very close friends with our buddies over at AMD as well. And we partner with some of the smaller clouds too. The team is absolute killers. Myself, I've been working on hardware accelerators for the last 6 years. Our chief science officer is a professor at Cornell University. Muhammad is absolutely brilliant, does everything from designing hardware, designing compilers to algorithmic optimizations. And him and Wukash actually started the AI Center at Samsung in UK. So we are the team that can build this. And we are crossing the CUDA moat. PyTorch is the boat. And we're breaking down the CUDA castle too. So thank you very much.
All right, awesome. Walid, I love your presentation style. And thank you for holding yourself accountable. That's what's fair. There we go. All right, over to judges for Q&A.
A lot of these companies you mentioned have spent maybe a decade optimizing compilers for their own platform, right? So why would a startup coming up be able to do it across all these platforms when each one has spent so much time optimizing in their own hardware?
That's a very good question. And we take a different approach to compilation than what we've seen from a lot of the other existing suppliers. First of all, it's important to note that we're not trying to replace the low-level compilers that actually create the machine code for the AMD or NVIDIA GPUs. We actually leverage CUDA kernels. We leverage AMD HIP ROCm kernels. We use composable kernel, and we use Tensile. So these are all libraries that come from the vendors. What our compiler does, it's really more accurately a meta compiler. We plug in many different backends, including from the vendor, including Triton, TVM, Hidet, all sorts of compiler backends. And we conduct a very extensive search across all of them. Now, this search used to be prohibitively expensive, but thanks to research from Muhammad and his lab, and thanks to research from Wukash, we have ways to actually use AI in the compiler to conduct the search very efficiently. So doing that, we can actually explore in what used to be a prohibitively massive search space very efficiently and find a really high-performance solution.
Can you describe the competitive landscape and your view of other competing solutions out there?
Absolutely. So there are a number of companies, some more recent ones too. I think Lemurian Labs has talked about building a compiler. There's a company out of Europe called Flex AI that just raised a $30 million seed round. They said they're going to do this, not much information on them. And then, of course, there are the Octo AIs who have like Apache TVM. Modular is probably another one too, although they're taking a different approach. They're rebuilding a framework from the ground up. The difference between all of these competitors and what we're doing is really about how we're very pragmatic. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel. We really just try to leverage all the existing libraries that are out there, and the secret sauce that we have is the ability to search through these libraries and to evaluate them efficiently. So that's really the big change that we're doing compared to everyone else. Also, a quick shout out to XLA and the PyTorch compiler team. That work, obviously, all the open source work out there helps us too, and we plan to contribute back to a lot of these open source libraries as well.
One more quick question.
You talked about the partnerships with the underlying providers so they can open up their market, but the other direction is actually from the models themselves and all the open source projects. How are you going to convince them that they need to support your work so you can actually get distribution with the end users?
For the models to support our work? I think it's kind of the other way around. We really build the building blocks, like, of various transformer kernels or attention kernels for those models. So really, it's wherever the models go, that's where we'll follow. And we expect that the vendors like AMD are going to be leading the charge in developing those kernels, and it's going to be software stacks like ours that make it really easy for developers to use those kernels without having to learn all the ins and outs of the low-level APIs that people like AMD provide.
All right. We'll lead in A2 Labs, everybody. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, our next startup is QuicSnap, based out of Houston, Texas. All right, we're really mixing it up with the locations. Please welcome their CEO, Ash Shri, and advisor, Astasia Sristrava. Did I get it? I got it? All right. Sick.
Hey guys, I'm Ash.
I'm Astitva.
And we are the founders of QuicSnap. At QuicSnap, we are redefining the way how product photography is done using 3D modeling and Gen AI. Now, in my previous startup, I built an e-commerce company, bootstrapped it from like $500 to $1 million ARR, and the biggest insight I had was that product photography is really critical for any brand to succeed. If you don't have great assets, you cannot succeed. Now, the problem is that if you go out there and try to do it renting out a studio, it's probably going to cost you more than $300 to just get one photograph done. It's really expensive. On top of that, this industry is really fragmented, and the overall industry side is upwards of $10 billion. We think QuicSnap has a solution.
So the way our solution works is, we take multiple images from the retailer of a product, and we automatically create a 3D model out of it. Now, we combine this 3D model, which has physically based textures, with a reference image given by the user that can be obviously generated via text. And we incorporate the lighting and the camera information from the reference images combined with the model to generate a beautiful market-ready product photo shoot. And this looks photoreal. It has correct lighting, correct perspective, and can be directly put it to social media and other websites. I'll just quickly give a technical overview of how our technical pipeline works. So we have created a custom 3D reconstruction engine, which takes multiple images and creates a 3D PBR rendered model. It's built on the differentiable rendering component of PyTorch 3D, which is a brilliant tool to use. And we then combine the 3D model conditioned on our own custom-built 3D diffusion model, which actually takes this 3D model and creates a product shot. Now, the best part of using a 3D model is we can not only incorporate the camera information, but also the lighting information from the scene and condition it on the diffusion process to generate the product shot with correct lighting. We have built this on using PyTorch. We tried another open source frameworks like TensorFlow, but turns out PyTorch really works well with Hugging Face. PyTorch is better than TensorFlow, period. And yeah, so this is our technical overview.
So yeah, I mean, we do have some traction. So far, we have generated more than 10,000 images for our customers. Customers love us, and they keep coming back, so that is obviously good, I guess. Yeah, I mean, if you look at our competition, it can be divided into 3 categories. So first, obviously, you have these legacy photography studios, but there the costing is really high. The pricing is obviously it's something to deal with, and the turnaround time is also very high. On the other hand of the spectrum, you have AI photo apps, but all they are trying to do is replace backgrounds, right? And then the image generation models like Midjourney and ChatGPT, but then you cannot keep the coherent product over there. We have some examples to show you. So yeah, I mean, these AI apps, you can see that the product remains constant. The perspective is same. The lighting is kind of baked in. All they're doing is like changing the background. Yeah, so here you can see the Midjourney and like DALL-E, but then the product is not the same. QuicSnap changes that. Now you can get novel views, different lighting. There are some other examples here that you can see that we have generated for other customers. Human models, now we can integrate that. We are also trying apparel, right? So building new novel pipelines.
Right. During Q&A, how about that? You can show it during Q&A, does that work?
Yeah.
Okay,
Let's
awesome. QuicSnap, everybody. Awesome. Okay, we have 3 minutes for Q&A, and you can show more slides during that.
Sure.
What do your customers look like? Are they kind of solo entrepreneurs or enterprise?
No, I mean, so far we have had small and medium-sized businesses. Now we are also targeting enterprise customers because what they're now doing is they really want to like customize email marketing or like niche marketing for their audiences. So now we can create like custom avatar for the niche audience that they are trying to target. So that is also something that we are looking into.
Could you talk about data acquisition and how you're getting data to train this diffusion model?
Sure. So basically, the model that we have trained, first of all, we have a 3D team, which is a designer team. They're creating a lot of 3D models based on reference photos, and we're using that data to fine-tune our custom model. The best part is, for the first part, 3D reconstruction engine, we don't need a generalized model. It's just like an optimization-based method which takes multiple images and create a 3D model. For the next component, we are using open source Hugging Face pipelines, which are great. Like open source stable diffusion has that lighting and incorporated. We just found out a process to actually extract that information just from the 2D. So that also providing us a bit of help. We are trying to expand upon LRM, large reconstruction model side of things. That's why we are building our own training data. Any other questions?
2 more questions.
What's the go-to-market strategy?
Go-to-market strategy is we are basically trying to identify our ICP right now. So the idea is to niche down on that, create like a very good market fit with them. And once we do that, then we're going to expand out to other categories and serve them.
One more. Any takers? Got one more question. No. All right.
Perfect. We are looking for a computer vision engineer, so if you want to join the team, hit us up.
There we go.
Thank you.
All right. QuicSnap, everybody. Thank you. Great. Next up, out of Seattle, Washington, we are on fire with these locations. We have ISO AI. Speaking on their behalf is founder and CRO Jasmina Henry. Here you go. Welcome.
Time. Good job. Absolutely. All right. So show of hands, how many people here have a AI agent roadmap for the next year and you're trying to increase productivity at your company? Anybody? A lot of people? Well, you're not alone. There's a lot of companies that are using AI agents to be able to increase productivity, be able to help out with their customer user base, also be able to do a lot of amazing things at the end of the yellow brick road, but unfortunately, there's things that's stopping them from getting there. And those things are a lot of problems with actual world validation, a lot of problems with ineffective optimization cycles, and also just a problem with the fact that a lot of the ways that we fix these things require a lot of trial and error. So that's where we came in. ISO AI, the thing that we want to do is be able to fix this problem right here, which is that 90% of pilot AI projects, they do not fail. I mean, they do not, we hope they don't fail, but they do not make it into production, and they fail to meet expectations. So one of the things that we're doing is we're using simulation environments to be able to improve actual world scenarios. How do we do that? We focus on making sure that we have safer, more reliable, and more effective AI systems through the process of taking what we've been able to figure out with reinforcement learning, with MDP, and the process of making it easier for agents to be able to solve complex problems within a state space. We do that with AI agents. So there's a few different types of simulation environments that we have. The ones that we're pretty excited about are our zero-shot reasoning simulation, which came out a week before OpenAI O1, and it's going to become important in a second. But essentially what it does is it gives the opportunity for your AI agent to be able to figure out how to solve questions zero-shot without having any prior training. And it does so pretty well. We also have other types of environments, adversarial environments, which means that you can have adversarial attacks go against your AI agents, be able to figure out how well they're able to perform. Multilingual environments, see how well your AI agents are performing in multilingual spaces, as well as being able to do things like figure out how well your AI agent is able to perform if it's running sequentially, in parallel, or is running by node. So this allows for a lot of flexibility, which means that you can have more effective development. So reason why I brought up OpenAI O1, September 6th, we came out with our ISO zero-shot simulation, and we were able to, in 8 seconds, be able to solve a question that I actually saw Cassie K post the day that OpenAI O1 came out. And the question was, who is John Milton and also who is Joanna Milton? When were both of them born? We were able to solve this question pretty quickly using our simulation environments. We were able to have in-depth reasoning simulation. That simulation, as you can see, has more in-depth answers. It also has a correct answer, and it was much faster than OpenAI. So how does it do that? It does that because it doesn't depend on prompts. Prompts are brittle. Prompts end up causing a lot of issues, and as a result, it ends up leading to a lot of the problems that stop you from being able to have the environments that you want for your AI agents. So I'm looking for a lot of other people to be able to join our company. If you're interested in joining with us, we would love to bring you on. And I have run out of time, so I'm going to go ahead and let the judges ask their questions. Thank you.
Jazz me up. Good work. Q&A.
I'm super curious about the blue and red teaming environment, given that it's so critical. What type of techniques are you using to perform those tests?
Yeah, so essentially what I do is we have a red teaming environment that's making sure that the AI agent is able to correctly identify whenever there's been different types of attacks towards the agent. So there's 7 different attacks that we have. Prompt injection is one of them. So how many times it's able to accurately assess those attacks, and then based off of that, we're able to provide a score. Because we're using reinforcement learning within the simulation environments, we're able to push rewards for the AI agent the closer it gets to actually performing well on those tasks. And then when it doesn't perform well, then it doesn't get the reward, which means it's able to converge better.
Can you describe how you're setting up the RL problem and how you're actually scoring the rewards?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
How are you actually, so in that example with the red teaming, how are you constructing the RL agent? How are you training the RL agent in the first place? Like, what's the data that's input to that model? And how should I think about it?
Sure. So for the red teaming one specifically, thankfully there has been a lot of red teaming data sets out there. Anthropic has a great red teaming data set that we use. And so we're able to use that as a comparison and be able to provide rewards there. Another thing that's great about that data set is that it actually has reasons for the answers. And so we're able to also evaluate the reasoning for our AI agents. As you can see in this reasoning simulation, we don't allow it to just give an answer. We require it to also give us the steps for its reasoning. And humans are able to actually go in and evaluate whether or not it's getting close to the answer.
And does the model then, is it stepwise rewards or is it answer? Okay, got it. Cool, very cool.
Yeah.
Can you share a little bit more about go-to-market and distribution?
Sure, yeah. So right now, I will skip to that. So right now, we are focusing on working with some partners that we've recently had the blessing of being able to connect with. We're having conversations with them for license partnerships. We're very new. We just started in August. We already have over 500 downloads of our packages, and so we're hoping to be able to move from those 500 downloads to be able to get people into subscriptions.
Team?
Oh, yes. The team right now is just me. As y'all could probably see beforehand, I've done a lot of stuff in my life, which is pretty exciting, but also just means that I'm a go-getter. And so because I'm a go-getter with other things in my life, I'm a go-getter here.
One more quick one. Time for one more quick one. No more quick questions?
Are you open sourcing anything?
Yes. Right now, the models that we currently have open are completely open source. ISO 0, the reasoning simulation. We also have ISO Adverse, which is our adversarial simulation. And we also have an ISO AI simulation that people can use. That one does model compression so that our models are able to actually fit within simulation environments. But if you're just interested in compressing your models and getting them to run much faster, you can just use it for that as well.
Okay. All right, awesome. Jasmia, are you the CEO, not the CRO? You're everything. You're everything. You do everything. All right, awesome. Our next startup is CTGT, based here in San Francisco. Please welcome CEO Cyril Goria. There you go. He probably wants that.
So deep learning is a black box. I don't need to tell any of you this here. A large part of the conferences that we see around machine learning are just dedicated to actually finding out what's going on inside of these black boxes. At CTGT, that's exactly what we want to solve. So we grew tired as deep learning researchers of this black box nature. We sort of just find something that works well in ML, like transformers, happened with many previous models in the past, and then we have to justify why we're using them afterwards. How do we deal with the problems that these models create? So we really wanted to bring a principles-first approach to how we approach deep learning specifically, and that's what we do. So we wanted to tackle three main problems as we saw them from our perspective. Hallucinations. So LLMs generate false and misleading information. There are many occasions of this, most notably that Air Canada chatbot that gave a refund that it wasn't supposed to. They're also a black box, like I mentioned. So when they do mess up, it's hard for us to actually justify why the reason they made that error was. Was it a miscalculation? Was it due to the data being poor? Things like that. And finally, with these large foundation models from people like OpenAI and Anthropic, it's not really attuned to what smaller or medium-sized companies want for their very specific needs. Our solution targets all three of these things and solves them. So to talk a bit about our solution, it's a drop-in replacement that just sits right along with PyTorch and their machine learning stack. It's open source. The papers are all out there. You can go read them. In a benchmark versus state-of-the-art methods, we've saved over 16,000 hours. In another example, with a Fortune 10 company, we were able to reduce their model size by over 98% to actually run them efficiently on device. And finally, hallucinations. So what we have is called token-level data lineage is the term. But essentially that means we've identified these token groups from a GBT model. They're food and cooking. Here's some output for a GBT model. What our method does here is you can see the ones in green are probably tokens that we want in a question about food and cooking. But we probably don't want the model to tell us to eat glue or something. So glue is highlighted here in red, and we're actually able to identify the linkage between these token groups and this output token, and then downsample that. So we've seen in practice with our customers that this eliminates hallucinations by 90% because they can actually stop these before they're deployed. And so these are some of the companies we're working with. We have 9 corporate users in our private beta. We just had to start a wait list, actually. We're processing onboarding those. I think what's really interesting here is we're actually seeing a lot of interest on the regulatory side. And so you can see that we're working with the Japanese and British governments here to really make sure that AI regulations align with what's possible, as well as, not resisting companies' desires in terms of building models, but actually making sure that those models are aligned with all its different stakeholders. And so if you're interested in transforming your machine learning stack with the next generation of neural networks, we'd love for you to get in touch. Check out our website, ctgt.ai. But I think I'm at time, so that's all for me.
Wow. Accountability. Good work. Good. That is a lot of text. It's a legal disclaimer?
Yeah, that's our legal disclaimer.
All right, I get the first question. What does CTGT stand for?
So my name is Cyril Gorla. My co-founder's name is Trevor Tuttle. CTGT. Yeah.
Okay. That doesn't count towards your time. Go to judges for Q&A.
Yeah.
Got 3 minutes.
Yeah, I guess one thing I'm curious about is for the hallucination example you showed, how are those kind of tokens generated in terms of what's sought after to block or to disassociate?
Yeah. So you might be familiar with methods like Anthropic's monosemanticity, right, where they made this Golden Gate Claude model. Unfortunately, for methods like that, they actually require training hundreds of proxy models. and then basically approximating where those concepts lie in the Claude model in that case. We're actually able to do that without training any additional model. So the problem with that method is you had to actually do that for the entire Claude model. They said it would take more compute than Claude itself took to train. We're able to do that with no additional compute. So that's how we approach that problem. We actually look into what's already there in the attention matrices.
So you mentioned a little bit about hallucinations and then model black box, right?
Yeah.
And then also you talked about compliance. So can you talk a little bit about go-to-market and business model? Like who are you targeting? What do you offer them?
Yeah, we're looking at people who have a lot to gain and a lot to lose from deploying AI in their workflows. So one of the pilots we're running is with one of the leading credit providers. And for them, they're actually inhibited from using traditional deep neural networks because of the regulations of that space, Fair Credit Reporting Act and things like that. What we allow them to do is we give them networks that, like we said, are state-of-the-art. They're the same performance as any deep neural network that's out today. But we actually mathematically guarantee for each decision what factors went into it and what didn't. And that's because we're approaching the actual learning from a fundamentally different level, rather than these ML interpretability methods like Lime, Chappy, or Anthropic's that are fundamentally approximations and not actually enough for those sorts of areas.
I'm curious why you believe this hallucination issue will get solved by models as compared to like a third-party service. Like that's a core belief in your business. So just want to learn more about that.
Yeah, we believe that there's a lot of sort of things, there's a lot of services that offer hallucination mitigation, right? They sort of use proxy LLMs, LLMs checking out LLMs. We think there's fundamental limitations to that method. And we think that really the way to think about hallucinations is that what some consider a hallucination, other people might be okay with in terms of an LLM just being creative. So to actually attune these to different customers' dynamics and what's appropriate for those industries like finance versus healthcare, there's different risk tolerances there. The customers need to be able on like a token level basis to actually change what they want. And giving your models to like other services that evaluate them with proxy LLMs doesn't allow you that granular control. So that's what our customers say. But, yeah.
One more quick one. If we don't have a quick one, that's fine.
Is there any public papers available?
Yes, there are papers out, and I have a paper out in ICLR about this. Yeah.
All right, awesome. CTGT. Thank you. Okay, finally, last but certainly not least, we have Creao AI, based in San Jose. Speaking on their behalf today are two co-founders, Clark Gao, Product and Growth, and CEO Kai Chung. All right, welcome onto the stage. There you go.
Hello, everyone. I'm really excited to be here today and to share with you our new product, Crea AI, the self-improving AI workflow platform. And the goal of this product is to help people to build AI workflows faster, smarter, and much easier. So what kind of problem are we solving right now? As many of you know, we're talking about AI workflows all the time, but we're facing some kind of problems right now. So the first challenge is that although lots of people are talking about AI workflows, but it's still extremely hard for people without a machine learning background to build or customize their own workflows, especially when his use cases are extremely difficult and they might need several steps to solve the problem. So then it will become even more difficult. The second problem, perhaps the most important one, is that right now, our foundation models like ChatGPT or Llama, they are becoming stronger and smarter almost every day. So it's extremely difficult for humans actually to identify or detect the weakness of our AI systems. And especially when our use cases are very complicated. In some use cases, our foundation model even outperform humans in many areas, right? So it's impossible for human to detect the weakness of our AI systems anymore. So that's where Creo AI comes in. On our platform, in order to make it easier for our user to build an AI workflow platform, so actually we've integrated lots of lots of agentic workflows inside of our platform. So our users only need to describe his use case, and our platforms can, write all the necessary prompts for the user, and also it can self-validate if the workflow our user built actually are put together correctly. And also, we've incorporated lots of self-critic and self-improvement mechanisms in our platform. So the workflow or the pipeline our user build inside of our platform, those pipelines can, detect its own weakness and try to improve it over time. So over time, it will adapt and learns our user needs. So that's how we solve the problem. So that's basically what you can do with Creao AI platform. At Creo, we're just a group of innovative and passionate engineers, and we have lots of background in AI industry and also lots of background in data science and software development. And also, we're in next couple of months, we have lots of new features coming in because we have just launched our products yesterday. So it's like the second day of our startup. Yeah. So if you're interested, you can join us on our Discord channel, or you can follow us on our official account on X. Yeah, thanks for your time. Yeah.
All right. Good time. Yeah. 2 minutes of Q&A.
I'm super curious about the techniques that you're using for prompt optimization.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. So the techniques we're using that. So if you just look at the large language models, so right now, because our foundation models are getting stronger and stronger, so you can actually involve the foundation models as the judge for the workflow. So when we're building the workflow, those foundation models can detect the weakness. And then after he detects the weakness, he will generate more synthetic data to fix that weakness. So that's called constructive filtering. So this is one of the techniques we use to actually detect the weakness of the workflow, then try to improve it. So that's the technique we use right now in our platform. Yeah.
Specifically, could you compare contrast to things like DSPy or TextGrad?
Okay. Sorry, compared to
frameworks like DSPy or TextGrad. Yeah.
Yeah, so the technique we're using right now is more related to agentic workflow. So it's not like a deep framework. It's more of a try to detect which use case our current workflow has some sort of deficiency, and then based on that deficiency, we generate more data. So it's not on the infrastructure layer, it's more of a data layer. So we just generate a good quality of synthetic data and use the LLM as a judge to figure out which data had good quality and which data had bad quality. Then we just apply those good quality data into our workflow and try to fine-tune our model and try to improve its, for example, like accuracy in this particular area. So that's how we do compared to other framework. Yeah.
If you're planning to use this in an enterprise setting, right? I think bad things can happen if workflow doesn't follow the path. Like, how do you put guardrails into the process?
Okay, so lots of enterprises, when they build the workflow, yeah, of course those workflow might go wrong. So that's how we solve those problems, because before the enterprise, those developer teams in those enterprise, they try to deploy any kind of LLM workflows. One of the most important things for them is they need to know the boundary of their AI workflows. So then that's how we work. So we firstly will tell the boundary and we'll tell the weakness of those models they're going to deploy. Then we try to give them what kind of use case right now it's a bad use case, which use case is a good use case. Then they can know the boundary of their AI systems, and after that they can pay more attention to those weakness spots and try to provide more training data to overcome those weaknesses and try to make their AI system work safely. Yeah.
That's all we have time for. All right, I get the mic back. Thank you so much for Creo AI. And a big round of applause to all of our demos tonight, to all 8 companies, all startups that demoed tonight. It's time for the judges to go tally up the scores and decide on our winner. Again, please visit these and the other startups that will be available for demos and discussion at the party, which starts at 5:30. That gives you 20 minutes, all right? The winner will be announced at 6:30. So please head over to the Gateway Pavilion. We've got a DJ, tons of food, drinks, booths, demos, entertainment, and more to cap off your PyTorch 2024 experience. Once again, my name is Chappy. Thank you all for joining us. Have a great rest of your conference. All right.